I am not just a YouTube creator, I am also somebody who watches videos here on YouTube. And last night, while I was watching some videos about, well, blacksmithing, I stumbled across a video of a blacksmith in some distant foreign land. I have no idea where he was. The title, the description, everything was in a language that not only do I not understand, but is one I couldn't even recognize. I can't even hazard a guess as to where this was. But some of the scenery and some of the tools he used later in the video lead me to believe possibly Africa, maybe India. I'm not real sure. And I'll put a link to that video right up here so you can watch the video if you want to. Maybe somebody out there knows exactly where this person is. Heck, maybe it's one of you folks out there that actually made this video. And while this extremely talented blacksmith was making a very unique wood carving adze, that isn't what struck my attention most. It was the pair of tongs he was using throughout the process, and he only used one pair of tongs. He used them to hold a chisel while he was cutting things off. He used it to hold the tool while he was working on it, and it was adjustable to fit pretty much anything he needed to fit. They were also the simplest, most basic pair of tongs I have ever seen. Now, frequently when we talk about making tongs, we talk about the issue surrounding making tongs when you don't already have tongs. And we've looked at a few ways of doing that, both out of flat stock and out of square bar by drawing the reins out. But that's a lot of work, and if you're just starting out at blacksmithing, you may not be comfortable doing these long drawing out projects. You just need a pair of tongs that work, and these might be the solution. Typically, you need a pair of tongs to hold the tong blank in, so you can draw out the reins or prepare it for forge welding or get the drop tongs style weld. But it is frequently handy to have a pair of tongs before you make your first pair of tongs. Again, I think this pair of tongs might be the solution to the problem, and I'm not going to show them to you. We're going to make them and let you see them because they are so wonderfully simple that if I show them to you, I don't need to demonstrate them. Now, like so many things that I do on this channel, the exact size of starting material isn't that important, as long as it suits your needs. If you're going to use these for fairly light work, they can be lighter. If you're going to use them for really heavy work, they can be heavier. The stuff he had in that video looked like it was about 1/2 inch, so I'm using 1/2 inch diameter bar, which, if memory serves me, is about 13 millimeters. Again, that isn't a critical dimension. And these are 17.5 inches long, or a little over 44 centimeters long. Again, don't get hung up on the measurements. That's not the point. Make these suit the material you have on hand and the work that you're going to do. The only other thing you need is a piece of some other bar, and you could probably still use the 1/2 inch bar. I'm going to use something that's about 5/16. You could use 3/8. You're going to make a ring out of this, and you might even be able to get by with cutting a section of heavy wall black pipe to make the ring out of. I don't think it's real critical exactly what the ring looks like. And we'll show you how these two pieces and the ring all work together to make an adjustable, functional pair of tongs. Now I'm going to start this by working on the ring, and I'm going to try and do it all just at the face of the anvil, even though it would be easier over a mandrel or over the horn of the anvil. But if you're just starting and don't have a regular anvil, this might be the way you need to go. And this ring needs to be twice the diameter of your starting material. So if you're starting with 1/2 inch bar, you need an inside diameter of the ring of 1 inch. And I'm going to take this ring a little over curved so it overlaps, and I'm just going to cut that off with a hacksaw. But first I need to make sure that it really fits my bar, which it does not. So I'm going to have to open it up a little bit. I should be able to catch that right there at the edge of the anvil. So I say a mandrel would be really nice. You can also hammer on that open end. But you don't have to have a lot of fancy tools. The question of how do you make tools when you don't have tools comes up, and this may be the big solution to that question. That's just perfect. So we're going to let that cool, and then I'm going to saw it off with a hacksaw. Now the next thing we need to do is forge the 2 tong halves. And this is where you usually are concerned with forging a tong jaw and a boss and starting the reins and doing all those half-face blows like we talked about the other day. But for this set of the tongs, you need to forget most of that. This isn't the way they work. That's not how they're set up. They're way simpler, way easier. You need to forge the jaw and you need to offset it a little bit so the jaws line up with each other. But there's no boss, no preparation for the reins, none of that stuff. So for this, I don't even think we need to worry about half-pace blows. We just want to flatten the jaw out, let it spread, and then we're going to push it off to one side. I think we can do that right at the face. We don't need to go to the edge of the anvil. So we're just going to push it over like that. Try and make it straight up this side. And really, I think that's all we need to do with this. I'm going to leave them straight for now. I think there may be some adjustment in this later. That's it. So that is our two tong halves. And they go together something like that. Now I'm going to let these cool, and then I'm going to cut that ring off. And this is just a matter of sawing through both pieces so you get a nice straight cut that lines up. There's our ring. We're going to need to line these edges up, so we'll take that back to the anvil. Now here's where I wish I had a pair of tongs to get this ring in and out of the forge so I can heat it up and flatten it out. But we'll use these kind of chopstick fashion, and I think it'll work just fine. So far we have not needed a pair of tongs to make this pair of tongs. Some of you may have already figured out what this is going to look like. Now, while this pair of tongs we're working on seems a bit crude and primitive and really a make-do solution, the shop that this gentleman was working in was anything but. It was a fully equipped professional blacksmith shop. He had a very nice two-horn anvil, probably weighed 400 or 500 pounds, great big post vise, a nice built-in place coal forge, racks and racks of hammers and punches and chisels and hardies and swedges and fullers and all that stuff. So this was a well-equipped shop, and looking at some of the other scenery that you see, this wasn't just some make-do operation. I am sure this gentleman is a highly accomplished smith, probably full-time, but perhaps not, because he also demonstrates using the woodworking tools that he was making at the end of the video. So let's see if we can get this out of here. Piece of cake. So even though we can't hold on to that with this not quite finished pair of tongs, we can use it to help us out a little bit. So you don't have to have tongs to make this pair of tongs. Just clean that ring up a little bit. By cutting both sides of the hacksaw at the same time, it always fits. Even if it's not a perfectly straight cut, the two sides will line up. This is a little bit fiddly, and yes, I would typically use a pair of tongs to hold this. But assuming you don't have anything yet, you probably even hold it up in the air like that. Might actually work better. But anyways, that's all we really need to do for the ring. It's not perfectly round, but I think it's going to work just fine. Now, perhaps some of you have guessed how these tongs work. You insert the two tong halves into the ring, and you offset them, and the ring becomes the pivot point. And because the ring is adjustable, you can adjust the space in the tongs. Now, looking at these, I think a little bend in the jaws of the tong might help. They come together as a V instead of parallel. But I think we can do that just cold right here at the anvil. So I'm going to bend that in like that. Bend the other one in the same. And hopefully that makes for more parallel grip on the tongs. Put them back in the ring. Now these are fussy, they're fiddly. I don't think they're in the long run as good as the regular tongs. But if you don't have tongs, you don't know how to make tongs, that seems to work. Amazingly simple, but functional. And yes, they work. You could use something like this to draw out the reins on a pair of tongs or make the adjustments while you make a more conventional pair of tongs. Now I think I'm still going to prefer the more conventional pair of tongs that both halves stay attached and you can manipulate them and move them around in your hand a little better. These you have to continue to squeeze the entire time you're working with them or things just kind of fall apart. So while these are not the ultimate solution in a pair of tongs, they might get you through in a pinch, and they might be the solution for somebody that has no idea how to make tongs, needs something at least to bring things in and out of the fire. I suspect they are not going to hold as well, and things may slip out of them, so be careful. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses. Even a full face shield wouldn't be a bad idea, and a leather apron, just in case things flip out of these while you're working. But in that particular video, in that very well-equipped shop, this was the only pair of tongs I saw him use, and he used them for multiple different thicknesses of things as he went through the process, and he seemed to have good control. Now the ring on his was made out of flat stock, it looked like, and that might make a difference. That might give a little bit different pivoting action. I don't know, it's worth experimenting with. If you like this idea, make some, but be careful. You are responsible for your own safety. If this looks like a bad idea to you, don't do it. Anyways, I just thought I would share that idea. Again, I have linked to that video at the beginning, and I'll put it again at the very end of this video. I'll put a link so you can go watch that particular video. I think it is certainly worth taking a look at. In fact, I think all of these videos that are done in other countries are worth taking a look at. They may not do things the same way we do. You might learn something. Watch them with an open mind. Don't get hung up on the fact that generally they aren't wearing safety glasses, hearing protection, and in this case, he was wearing sandals. But this is about the tooling and the technique, so don't get hung up on all that other stuff. It's a wonderful video. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this video on a very unusual to make a set of tongs. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Love it if you hit that subscribe button. Stick around, watch a few of the other videos, share the videos with your friends, but then head out to your shop, make something, stay safe, wear your safety glasses, and we'll see you for the next one.